Namaste nerds, this is Navada, Budget Pub Stomper, and today I've got something that I'm actually really excited to bring you. Usually on the channel you're going to see one of two things. You're going to see one of the latest, greatest, brand newest things, like I'll pick a commander that's got everybody's attention, that's brand new, kind of the shiny new toy, that I think is viable, and I'll try to build the best version of that commander that I can build. Or you'll see one of the top tier budget commanders in the format, like a tier 1, tier 2 at least, or if not S tier commanders in the format, in budget competitive, $100 max, like Hundo max. So which is Shorikai Genesis Engine? Honestly, I don't think it's either one. I don't know that this is an S tier, A tier, tier 1 commander, although it's a bit of a meta buster, so it might be right now. This is placed really well. I think that it's in a good spot based on what all else is going on in the meta right now. But this isn't the latest, greatest thing. And it's not this like S-tier stomper that has a proven track record of taking down budget competitions. Not either of those two things. But what I think it is just super viable. Definitely like a dependable, reliable. This little engine, this Genesis engine, is not going to steer you wrong. I think this is a very good strategy, but more than anything, this is my shit. I love decks like this. I love sitting behind walls of value engines and counter spells and interaction and just being able to make everybody want to claw their eyes out before I eventually bring down this huge hammer and wallop people. I love that, and I don't get to do that all that often. Generally speaking, I think that's not actually the best way to strategize. That's not. Mostly, I think proactive strategies have. Well, they've got a strategic advantage in a 4-player free-for-all format. But can we overcome it? Absolutely. Decks do it all the time, and this has been one of them. I actually have a cEdh version of Genesis Engine that I play fairly often, and definitely just one of my favorite lists. This is the kind of shit that I like to do. But it's also really, really broken. I think this is hands down, whether we're talking about cEdh or budget competitive, I don't think there's a better Auzorious commander. I think if you want to play Auzorious, this is the best thing you can be doing. And I think if you want to play budget competitive and you want to play a control deck, this is definitely one of the best things you can be doing. Or I'll say if you want to play sort of a traditional control deck, this is right up there with the top dogs. So if you want to play basically like a draw go type strategy, I think Shorikai could be the deck for you. So Shorikai Genesis Engine is a 4-mana vehicle that has crew 8 and is an 8/8. And it has the following text. 1 mana, tap, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Create a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token with this creature crews vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. So I know you're probably way ahead of me on what the strategy is going to be, how we're going to win the game. We are going to be making enough pilots to crew this thing up, and we're going to bash people with an 8/8 robot. I'm just kidding. We're not doing any of that. This is like one of the best value engines you could possibly have in the command zone, but it's got some extra advantages by way of not being a creature. And in a format, and I'm talking now specifically about budget competitive, in a format that's totally dominated by creature decks. By not being that, we can take advantage of some of the more powerful spells in all of Commander. Look, there's 4 players in the game. There's 4 players in the pot. So if you have a spell like Supreme Verdict that just destroys everybody's shit, I mean, you might have just taken out 20 things for 4 mana. And if you're playing a deck where you don't have any creatures in play, that's 20 things that aren't your things. So one of the big edges we get from playing the Genesis Engine in the command zone is we get to take advantage of all these nasty board wipes like Supreme Verdict. Kenning can be pretty grindy, but not after you wipe its fucking board. You're thinking maybe like, well, yeah, but it can just counterspell. Can't counterspell Supreme Verdict. That's the thing about Supreme Verdict. The main thing that they all have in common is that they're overpowered and undercosted. So like they're built for a 1v1 format, right? These cards are designed for like standard or 60 card 1v1. In our format, this 1 3-mana thing is blowing up 3 opponents worth of things. So just think of like all the mana that it costs for 3 different players to all develop their boards. How many cards and how many draw steps went into I don't know, like Magda, Malcolm Kedis, and Selvala. If those are my opponents and we're on turn 4, how much mana and how many cards have they poured into developing their board for you to spend 3 mana and, well, worst case like Supreme Verdict, 4 mana and just obliterate everything, right? This is the kind of spell that you need in a control deck to turn the corner. So Hour of Revelation fits the bill here. It says this spell costs 3 less to cast if there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. And it says destroy all non-land permanents. You are not a permanent-based deck. This deck is playing very few permanents. Your mana rocks are going to get blown up, but you're not playing to the board very much. So this is like a perfect like oh shit button. It's not just a creature wipe. Like this just sets everybody back to the Stone Age. But if you're playing a control deck and you're in a spot where I don't know you're on turn 7 or 8 and you've got 8 lands out, you've been hitting all of your land drops. You're playing 34 lands while everybody else is playing 29, 30 lands, and you just ruined the world. Your world is a lot less ruined than everybody else's world. And the spells that now that you're in like top deck mode with everybody, the spells that you're going to be top decking are going to be more powerful on average than a deck that's loaded full of 1/1 dwarfs. In this deck, in this format, in a 4-player game, especially in a 4-player game where you're sitting on a value engine, if each of your opponents has 2 creatures, they've got their commander and a mana dork, a piece. And they almost always do. How long does it take for any deck in the format, in the quasi format, in the budget competitive space? How long does it take them to have 2 creatures apiece? It's very rare that this is not going to be white, destroy all creatures. That is a fucking blowout. Think of all of the cards that you just took out with your 1 card and think of all of the mana. Look at the tempo swing. When they've put so many resources in developing all of their boards, and for 2 mana and 1 card, you get rid of all of it. That's a blowout. That's the way that you can honestly make up all the equity that you lose by being mathematically penalized for trading off 1-for-1 in the early game. That's a mouthful. Hopefully that makes some sense, and you're kind of smelling what the rock is cooking here. I'm the rock in that little analogy if you weren't awares. And so you've been sandbagging all this interaction. Now you wipe the board and all of your opponents are like, oh shit, I've got 2 cards. They maybe have 2-3 cards each, and you're sitting there with a full grip because you've been letting them develop, not using your interaction, knowing that you're going to untap, cast this Vanquish the Horde, and turn the corner. And once you turn the corner in this deck, it's over. I mean, it's pretty much over. So now let's talk about what it looks like to, what do we do after we turn the corner? Because turning the corner, first we have to stay alive. We have to use our bevy, our like massive suite of like stellar interaction. We've got like all the good stuff here, like all the greatest hits in Auzorious showed up to play. We're going to use this suite of 1-for-1 interaction to survive long enough to turn the corner, to get to that point where we can, cast that big board wipe. Then that's like us starting to break parity on the rest of the table and put ourselves into an advantageous position. So what's it going to look like after that? What's like the next step? Let me just take a look at something here. Okay, so we've used our 1-for-1 spot removal to kind of try to stay alive. We've sandbagged interaction, waited for the perfect timing to get off this nasty board wipe. We have cast the nasty board wipe, and now we are ready to turn the corner. This is when we are going to fire off our tutor and try to get one of our win conditions started. So for instance, we might have a polymorph. Yeah, so now we're going to get into actually winning the game. And that's going to be the coolest part of this deck as far as I'm concerned. I think I don't know. There's lots of cool things about this deck. I love it. So polymorph, one of our little tokens. Polymorph says, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. Its controller reveals cards off the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a creature card. That player puts that card into play, shuffle all the other cards revealed this way into his or her library. So that's a lot of words. What does it mean? It means that you're going to blow up one of your creatures, and you're going to flip cards off the top of your deck until you come to a creature. Once you come to a creature, that creature is going to be in play. You're going to put that creature right into the battlefield. Well, what creatures are we likely to hit? Well, we've got one, so we're not likely to hit anything. We are going to hit Hullbreaker Horror 100% of the time. Now, this isn't cEdh proper, so we don't have like a ton of mana positive rocks that are going to allow us to really, really abuse Hullbreaker Horror. I mean, we are looking to abuse Hullbreaker Horror, but we don't have the just like overabundance of mana positive. Like, we don't have all the fast mana. But we do have a couple of pieces. We've got some zero cost or some mana neutral artifacts, and then we've got Soul Ring. So mostly this is a control piece. Even if you just have this in your hand, this is another one of those big bomby spells that's going to help you to turn the corner. You instep, flash this in, you untap, you've got some cards in your hand. I mean, your Shorikai Genesis Engine is drawing you just a tremendous number of cards. It's like it draws an insane number of cards. Now we've got this all this fuel. We've been sandbagging. We drop the Hullbreaker Horror into play, and it can't be countered. If the polymorph can be countered, but if you just cast it, it can't be countered. And it says, whenever you cast a spell, choose up to one. Return target spell you don't control to its owner's hand. So that means every time you cast anything, like a cantrip, whatever, if you've got instant speed anything, you can turn those into sort of counter spells. So somebody goes to cast a kill spell on your Hullbreaker Horror, you can cast a Pongify, nuke their thing, and use that Pongify to trigger the top line here, the top ability, return target spell you don't control to its owner's hand. And so you can, whatever they were aiming at your thing, you can blank it. You can return it back to their hand, which means it doesn't stay on the stack. It's not on the stack anymore. It's in their hand. So that effect is nullified. And so it protects itself. It protects your board. It protects you. But then probably the more important ability is the return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand ability. This is just a really big piece for helping you to control the game. It feels like you're 2-for-1ing off every spell. You know, when you're turning the corner, maybe you're going to do that with a well-timed Whir of Invention into Cursed Totem, and just say activated abilities of creatures can't be activated. A damning stax piece. Not many decks can play it, especially in budget competitive, because you're playing a bunch of creatures. You need your activated abilities. Most of your commanders have activated abilities that you're playing for and trying to exploit. Well, we're not. Our commander isn't a creature. Our deck doesn't have creatures. Cursed Totem is a damning stax piece to almost everybody, but exactly us. So this is a big piece for the deck. Or maybe you're playing against some broken-ass graveyard strategies and a Magda. You can instep Whir of Invention and put a... Oh, what the hell is it called? The other big damning stacks piece, Grafdigger's Cage. Creature cards in graveyards and libraries cannot enter the battlefield. Players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. That means there's no more Magda activations. That means there's no more green to the battlefield tutors. That means there's no more hoarding Broodlord lines. That means there's no World Gorger Dragon, no Protean. Players can't cast cards in their graveyards. Okay, that one depends. But you get the idea. Like, we're putting a pretty good stop on a lot of what the most broken strategies in the format look like. So that's what we're doing. We're developing our mana rocks. We're keeping ourselves alive. We're stopping anybody from winning the game. We're murdering the things that would murder our things, and then we're setting up to win, maybe dropping some stacks pieces. And let's talk about the wins. How do we win? So really we win through attrition and card advantage and Efficient removal and overpowered board wipes like out of time. But like, how do we really win? That's a little bit more complicated. So the easiest thing I can say is we're going to go into an infinite mana combo. Now, if you're an astute follower of this video, you may notice that Shorikai Genesis Engine is not an infinite mana outlet. And it's like, kind of it is, kind of it isn't. Technically, it doesn't win off of infinite mana, but actually, it wins off of a lot of the combos that people use to generate infinite mana. And there's no exception in Hullbreaker Horror or Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal. Those are our two main win lines. It's not the only win lines, but it's our two main win lines. So maybe we cast a reality shift, or I'm sorry, a reshape. Maybe we have our Dramatic Reversal in hand, and we cast a reshape and sacrifice a rock or something. And we search and find our Isochron Scepter. We put the Isochron Scepter directly into play. We imprint the Dramatic Reversal. If you're not familiar with the combo, Isochron Scepter says for 2 mana, when you cast it, imprint something. When it ETBs, you choose an instant card with mana value 1 or 2, or 0, I guess, and you imprint that card on the Isochron Scepter. Then, from that moment forward, you can pay 2 mana and tap the Isochron Scepter to put a copy of that spell on the stack. In fact, technically it says copy and cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So this does storm and stuff. But that's not what we're using it for. What we're using it for is we're just going to have a bunch of mana rocks in play. And I actually got rocks where we don't usually need that many. Like if we have to tutor for a mana rock, maybe we cast the big nuclear warhead and just leveled the entire planet with, not Vanquish the Horde, with Hour of Revelation. So we need to get like a big rock in play. So we with one tutor we can put Basalt Monolith into play, and that is enough rocks to get infinite mana and infinite Shorikai untaps with our Dramatic Reversal Isochron Scepter combo. So Isochron Scepter lets us recast the Dramatic Reversal as often as we'd like, and Dramatic Reversal untaps all of our things, including the Isochron Scepter. So if we imprint the Dramatic Reversal, not Narset's Reversal, but Dramatic Reversal, it says for 2 mana, instant untap all non-land permanents you control, and that's actually just a really good card in the deck. This can just be a ritual that also untaps our commander and allows us to reuse it. And we've got some kind of cool lines where maybe we've got a key, maybe we've got 2 keys in play with a Basalt Monolith and a couple mana rocks, and we've got our Shorikai in play. We can be in situations where we tap our Shorikai, we put 1 mana into our Shorikai, tap it, draw 2 cards, discard 1 card, and then we could use maybe tap the Basalt Monolith to do that. We've got 2 mana floating. We'll use one of those mana for the Voltaic Key, tap it to untap our commander, and use the other floating mana to reactivate your commander. Then if you've got another 2 mana, I guess, you can do it again. So the keys play really well with Basalt Monolith, and they play really well with the Washing Machine. They play really well with our commander. But Dramatic Reversal does too. That was the point. Dramatic Reversal, though, with Isochron Scepter, puts you in a situation where you can pay 2 mana, tap your Isochron Scepter. At this point, it's called an Isorev. You can tap the Isorev Scepter, put a copy of this on the stack. It untaps all of your mana rocks and your Isochron Scepter. Then you can do it again, and again, and again. So as long as you're able to get 3 mana, so if you just have a Basalt Monolith in play with the Isochron Scepter and the Dramatic Reversal, that's just 1 rock. So if you had to tutor for a rock, you only had to tutor for 1 thing. And you've got your Isorev going, and you will make infinite mana and infinitely untap your Shorikai. And why do we need the infinite mana? Well, we don't really need infinite mana, but we need enough mana to, on each iteration, we need 1 mana to put into the Shorikai Genesis Engine to be able to activate it. So effectively, you do need infinite mana. I mean, the way you would actually layer it out, the way you would actually go through the combo is you probably would just go through the entire combo, make infinite mana first, and then continue to iterate and go through and Tap your Shorikai, draw 2 cards, discard a card, untap everything. Then do it again and again. So you're going to be drawing through your entire deck. So how do we actually win with that? Because we're not playing Thassa's Oracle. Well, we're putting a bunch of little tokens into play while we're doing this, right? So we're putting all these pilot tokens into play. So we put all the pilot tokens into play, but then we don't want to have to pass the turn, right? We don't want to put 100 guys in play and say, okay, cool, I'm going to kill you on my next turn. So we have 1 copy of Temporal Manipulation in the deck. So if you get to this stage in the game, when you're drawing through your entire deck, you will hit this Time Walk, and then you can cast the Time Walk effect so that you don't have to wait and pass the turn and wait till it comes back to your turn. So Temporal Manipulation is a good card, but it also can just be a way to effectively give all of your guys haste. You draw your deck, you make a bunch of 1/1s, and you get your Hullbreaker Horror in play. And hell, maybe you even do activate your Shorikai at this point. So you've got an 8/8, a 7/8, a bunch of 1/1s, but a lot of them you just put into play this turn. So you smash somebody, you cast the Temporal Manipulation, go to your turn again, and now all of your guys have, it's effectively like they have haste. So that's how you mainly are going to win the game. There's other things. There's so many other things. There's Hullbreaker Horror with exactly, say, Soul Ring and Basalt Monolith. Or Hullbreaker Horror with Soul Ring and Everflowing Chalice. So you're always going to need the Soul Ring. So you need 1 mana positive rock, and the only one is Soul Ring. Did I forget to put Soul Ring in my deck? Oh no, it's just weird art. So we've got the Hullbreaker Horror in play. We've got a Soul Ring in play. Then we've got let's just say, a Welding Jar in our hand. What we're going to do is we're going to tap the Soul Ring for 2 colorless mana. Then we're going to cast the Welding Jar. The Welding Jar, when we cast it, it's going to allow us to do the second line here, the second ability. It says, whenever you cast a spell, choose up to 1. We're talking about the bottom one. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So when we cast the 0 mana thing, the thing that we're going to bounce is the Soul Ring. So we're going to bounce the Soul Ring after we already tapped it for 2 mana. Now we're going to use one of the 2 floating mana to recast the Soul Ring. We recast the Soul Ring, we're going to trigger the Hullbreaker Horror again. And we're going to use the bottom ability again. And this time we're going to bounce the 0 mana artifact to our hand. And then we're going to tap the Soul Ring for 2 mana. We're going to cast the 0 mana thing, bouncing the Soul Ring. Then we're going to play the Soul Ring, bouncing the 0 mana thing, tap the Soul Ring, so on and so forth. And we're going to make infinite colorless mana at this point. So what are we going to do with colorless mana, right? Well, we're going to be able to wash it through any of our colored mana rocks. Arcane Signet, Talisman, Auzorious Signet, Felwar Stone, probably. Most of the time you'll be able to wash your mana with the Felwar Stone. And so if you can wash your mana, and what I mean is we've got infinite colorless mana, so now we will cast the Felwar Stone. Or we'll cast the whatever thing we have bounced. Say we've got the Welding Jar in hand. We'll cast the Welding Jar. We'll proc the Hullbreaker Horror to bounce the Felwar Stone to hand. We'll use some of our infinite mana to cast the Felwar Stone. When we do that, we'll bounce the Welding Jar again. We will tap the Felwar Stone for white. And then we'll bounce the Felwar Stone, and we'll replay the Felwar Stone, and we'll tap it for blue. And then we'll do white, and then we'll do blue. So we're going to make infinite blue and infinite white mana. And then, from that point, instead of bouncing mana rocks up and down, we're going to literally just bounce our commander. Because this is not a creature, it doesn't have summoning sickness. So we cast the 0 mana thing once we've got infinite mana with our Hullbreaker Horror. We bounce the Shorikai to hand. We recast the Shorikai, and then we activate Shorikai. Draw 2 cards, discard a card. We cast a thing, we bounce the Shorikai. And when we cast the Shorikai, by the way, we're going to proc the Hullbreaker Horror to return that 0 mana or the Felwar Stone, to return something to our hand. Then we're going to drop that thing again. We're going to play that Felwar Stone again. Remember, we've got infinite mana. bouncing our Shorikai. And then we're going to recast the Shorikai, bouncing the Fellwar Stone. We're going to activate Shorikai, draw 2 cards, discard a card. Cast the soul, whatever it is, the Fellwar Stone, bounce the Shorikai. Cast the Shorikai, bounce the Fellwar Stone. Tap the Shorikai, activate it, draw 2 cards, discard a card. So we're going to be able to loop through our entire deck, and eventually we're going to come to some way to win the game, or we're just going to make all these 1/1 creatures and time warp win the game. That's not always going to be enough to win the game. There could be situations where you don't make enough creatures. There could be situations where somebody, I don't know, has an effect in play that doesn't allow you to kill their creatures. Somebody's got an Elish Norn, maybe. Somebody's got Elish Norn Grand Cenobite in play, so you can't even make 1/1s. How do you win? Well, I guess in that case you would just bounce the Elish Norn. Yeah, I mean, basically, once you can draw your deck with infinite mana, you win. But you do need to know some of the little tricks, because it's not always going to be super easy. Now, I did have Codex Shredder in the deck. Kind of as just a clean outlet where you can just Isochron Scepter and just mill everybody out. But I really just didn't want to play any dead cards. So, actually, the card that I replaced it with, it was a 1-for-1 trade out with Reality Shift. Is that what it's called? So this is a cool line. This is like, this is the kind of shit that you sometimes have to understand when things don't go the way you expected them to. Or maybe somebody just gained like 300 life and you just don't have enough pilot tokens to murder that person, and you don't want to pass the turn to them. Maybe they're propped to win on their turn. Maybe they've got a Grand Abolisher effect in play. You don't dare pass the turn. So you can Reality Shift. Remember, you're able to draw your entire deck, so you know you can find the Reality Shift. You can cast the Reality Shift on one of their creatures. And Reality Shift exiles the creature, but it manifests the top card of that player's library. So now they have a 2/2, but it took one of the cards off of their deck, right? And again, you've already drawn your entire deck, as many cards as you want. So you will have found your Midnight Clock, right? You've got, say you did this with your Hullbreaker Horror. And if not, if you did it with your Isochron Scepter, you will have drawn your Hullbreaker Horror, because again, you've drawn your entire deck. So we will put the Hullbreaker Horror into play for the sake of demonstrating how this is going to work. We will Reality Shift their creature, which is going to make a 2/2. Well, okay, we're going to Reality Shift their creature, make a 2/2, and manifest the top card of their library. Now, our Reality Shift is in the graveyard, but we would like it in our hand, because what we want to do is we want to Reality Shift that 2/2, and that will manifest the top card of their library again. And then we want to Reality Shift that creature, which is going to remove the top card of their library again. We want to keep manifesting and manifesting and manifesting their deck so that we deck them out. So we can Reality Shift everybody's creatures infinitely. If we can find a way to do that, we can deck everybody out. And one of the ways we could do that is we put all this infinite mana into Midnight Clock. So we put 12, what are they called? Clock tokens. When the 12th hour counter is put on Midnight Clock, shuffle your hand, graveyard, and library, then draw 7 cards. Exile Midnight Clock. Okay, so it costs 3 mana to put an hour counter on the Midnight Clock. We don't care about that because we've made infinite mana. This is also just a mana rock. It'll just tap for a blue. And just you get a, every upkeep. At the beginning of each upkeep, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. And that's not your upkeep, that's during every player's upkeep. So this is a way to just like refuel in the mid or late, in the late game, I guess. But it's also a way to do twister loops in a budget deck. We're getting to that. So you use your infinite mana to put all of the 12, whatever they're called, Midnight Clock hour counters. Yeah. So you have 11 hour counters on your Midnight Clock, and you have cast Reality Shift on your opponent's creature. That has manifest the top card of their deck. Now, you are going to put the last counter on the Midnight Clock. You're going to put this Midnight Clock activation on the stack. Then, you're going to hold priority. So before that Midnight Clock ability goes off, before it resolves, you're going to use your Hullbreaker Horror to bounce the Midnight Clock to your hand. So when you do that, now you have exiled the the creature, you've manifested the top card of their deck, you have gotten a Time Twister effect, and you've got the Midnight Clock in your hand. So the Midnight Clock can't be exiled. It just gets shuffled back into your deck. Then you go through whatever loop you were going through in the first place until you draw the Midnight Clock and the Reality Shift again. And you set up and you do the exact same thing again. You can do the same, well, won't worry about how you can do the same thing. There's another, so that's just another avenue to win the game without having to play win conditions. We have the most interaction we could possibly run because we didn't have to waste any deck slots on putting actual just dedicated win cons. There's no Thassa's Oracle. There's no Laboratory Maniac. There's no Lab Jace. Another version, if I don't know, somebody somehow exiles your Reality Shift, but you still need like some sort of a backup plan. What you can do is you can you can pick up your 0 mana artifact. You can cast your 0 mana artifact, and you can counterspell it with the Strix Serenade. It says counter target artifact, creature, or planeswalker spell. Its controller gets a 2/2 bird. So when you do that to your own spell, you make a 2/2 bird. But both of those things are now in your graveyard, which is fine because what you're going to do is you're going to use your Midnight Clock. You're going to put infinite mana. You've got infinite mana. You're going to put 12 hour tokens on it. You're going to tap it. You're going to put that Midnight Clock activation on the stack, and then you're going to bounce it with your Hullbreaker Horror. You're going to do that same thing, but instead of manifesting the top card of everybody's deck, now we're just going to be making an infinite army of 2/2 birds. And then eventually, we're going to go through this, like, quote-unquote, well, I'm going to call it the poor man's twister loop. We're going to run this poor man twister's loop until we find a temporal manipulation. We're going to cast the temporal manipulation, and we're going to go to our extra turn, and all of our birds are going to take flight because none of them are going to have summoning sickness. See, we don't need to worry about Thassa's Oracle. We don't need to play, dead cards. We don't have to play crap cards. We can just play good interactive cards that are going to help us to not lose the game and push towards turning the corner. And we're not going to worry about having to win the game. We're just going to worry about getting to one of our infinite mana situations, which, by the way, our infinite mana combos are also made up of not dead cards. You don't have to be afraid to use your Isochron Scepter in this deck. You can, at any point in the game, if you feel like it would be good for you to have a Pongify on a stick, you can cast your Isochron Scepter, and you can put a Pongify under the Isochron Scepter, and now you've got every turn an Isochron Scepter, and maybe you've got a Voltaic key that you can use to untap the Isochron Scepter, and maybe you've got the other key too, and you can just machine gun down. Maybe you can kill everybody's commander every single turn rotation with that. You know, if you've got an Isochron Scepter with a Pongify and 2 keys in play, you can just rat-a-tat-tat, just murder everybody's commander literally every turn if you want to. So you don't have to worry about doing that because, first of all, you've got ways to bounce that. You could bounce the Isochron Scepter back to your hand and then recast it with the Dramatic Reversal once you find it. There's any number of ways to do it, but I think the most fun thing you could do is you could cast your Mirror Maid, turning this into a copy of the Isochron Scepter, and then put the Dramatic Reversal on the Mirror Maid Isochron Scepter. Pretty cool, right? So now you can do, or what would be really sick is if you did the Mirror Maid to make a copy of the Isochron Scepter, but you've got the Isochron Scepter with a Dramatic Reversal, and use the Mirror Maid and put a copy of Strix Serenade under that one, and you could do the dueling scepters thing. Oh, you can't counter the Dramatic Reversal with the Strix Serenade. That exact thing isn't going to work. But you can do the same thing by twister looping your deck with your Hullbreaker Horror and your Midnight Clock. God, how are we doing on time? Probably not great. Oh, God. Yeah, I suspected as much. There's a lot to talk about, right? It's a complicated deck. And the last win-con, not win-con that I'm going to talk about, well, the last combo, not combo, the last win-conless combo I'm going to talk to you about is Isochron Scepter with Narset's Reversal. Narset, this is one of my favorite cards. I think it's just so cool. Somebody casts Ad Nauseam. You think, you know what would be better is if I bounced your Ad Nauseam to your hand and I made a copy of it myself. That sounds good. Doesn't that sound good? And then you do that. Yeah, we'll just talk about this last little combo, and then I'll just maybe talk about some notable inclusions that might look a little bit odd. Like unexpectedly absent, sleeper. Sleeper, this is the sleeper of all time, guys. Play this card. It's crazy good. People are nuts. It's insanely good. Okay, so Isochron Scepter with Narset's Reversal. And this is you don't need infinite mana for this. This is just another way to actually get to the win. You're playing your game, you just wiped the board, you're ready to turn the corner. You've got Narset's Reversal in hand. So you tutor up the Isochron Scepter, or well, you've got whichever one that I don't remember if I said Narset's Reversal or Isochron Scepter, but you've got one of your A's. You've got your Isochron Scepter or your Narset's Reversal. And then you use one of your mini tutors to find the other piece. So we've got tons of tutors too. We've got Fabricate, we've got Merchant Scroll, we've got Polymorph, kind of. It finds our Hullbreaker Horror. We've got Reshape. We've got Solve the Equation. We've got Muddle the Mixture, which finds the A or the B of our Dramatic Reversal Isochron Scepter combo. We've got Scour for Scrap, which is a tutor for an artifact. It'll dig the artifact out of our library or out of our graveyard or both. So it says choose one or both. So let's say that your Isochron Scepter gets murdered in cold blood. You can choose both modes. Search your library. Well, you can search your graveyard for the Isochron Scepter and put it back in your hand. And you can go and get your, what's the equipment called? Your Skull Clamp. Skull Clamp is bananas in this deck, by the way. This is, like, if you've not played with Skull Clamp, I highly recommend that you give it a shot. It's a hell of a good time. Those pilots are useless, so you just murder the little pilots with your Skull Clamp. It's fun. It's actually kind of fun to just murk a skull clamp a pilot, draw 2 cards. It's tension releasing. What do the kids call that? It's satisfying. It's very satisfying to murder pilots with your Skull Clamp. Just pop their heads and draw cards out of them. That took a dark turn for no reason, just out of nowhere, didn't it? Listen to me like I wasn't the one doing the dark turning. So yeah, Scour for Scrap is crazy good. It's new and it's like 26 cents getting my deck. Whir of Invention is another tutor. So we've got lots of tutors. So we've got lots of tutors to find our win conditions. So we find our Isochron Scepter with our Narset's Reversal. So we've got the Scepter and a Reversal. That's always going to be one of these 2 reversals is going to go under the Scepter when we're looking to win the game. If we use the Narset's Reversal on the Scepter, then we are going to cast a Time Warp. So we cast Time Warp, hold priority. We activate our Isochron Scepter with Narset's Reversal on it. And that's going to pull I think I've been saying Time Warp, the Temporal Manipulation off the stack and put it back in our hand. But it's also going to make another copy. It's going to make a copy of the Temporal Manipulation and put that one on the stack. So now we've got an extra turn on the stack, but we've still got our Temporal Manipulation in our hand. So we'll get an extra turn, attack with our dudes, make more dudes, play more dudes, do more shenanigans, then go to our next turn, and now we can just do it again. We just cast the Time Warp again. The Temporal Manipulation again. We use the Scepter to bring it back to our hand again, making a copy of it, and we get infinite turns that way. We just do take all the turns. So all of the cards in the deck, hopefully you're getting a sense for it. They're all effective on their own, but they all have ways to work together to win the game in weird ways without having to play without having to play a fucking Thassa's Oracle, because Thassa's Oracle sucks. You can quote me. Card sucks. Grasp of Fate, totally slept on. This is very underutilized. It's great. It's also cool because we can use Mirror Maid to make a copy of it, or we can flicker it and reset it. Same with Out of Time. I think that's the deck. I think we've pretty well discussed it all. What was I going to do? I said I had a plan. Oh, underutilized, or no, notable inclusions. That's what I was going to talk about. Hour of Revelation we already talked about. Vanquish the Horde, yeah. Savine's Wreck, obviously we've got key artifacts in the deck, so it'll be good to have a way to get them back. Tutors, interaction, none of this seems to demand a whole lot of explanation, but there's a couple cards, right? Unexpectedly Absent. Okay, 2 white mana, 2 an X, put target non-land permanent into owner's library just beneath the top X cards of the library. And people are thinking like, well, God, I don't want to jam a bunch of mana into that spell, and it still is just going to be buried a couple cards down. And yeah, like, no wonder. Who would want to? Don't do that. That's not what you do. What you do, 90% of the time, maybe more, is you just have, it's a 2 mana bounce spell. It's bounce target permanent, but it doesn't put it back in their hand. It puts it on top of their library. If this, I'm convinced that if this just said white, white, fuck the X, if the X was not on the card, and it just said white, white, put target non-land permanent on top of their owner's library, everybody would play this card. That's just the best bounce spell that white's, I mean, white doesn't always get, I mean, it gets quasi bounce spells, right? It's got a couple of kind of bounce spells. But I would say this is probably their best one. If you're in mono white and you're not playing this, you're crazy. Another trick with Unexpectedly Absent, well, you can put it under an Isochron Scepter. That's kind of neat. No, but another trick with the Unexpectedly Absent is as soon as somebody goes to tutor or they crack a fetch land, anything that's going to shuffle their deck, you can whack them, whatever you're trying to get rid of, you can hit right then, and then that's going to go on top of their library and get shuffled into their library. So that's not just better than a bounce spell. That's better than a removal spell. It doesn't even go into their graveyard. It's gone. It gets shuffled away. Yeah, Unexpectedly Absent is just a very good card. The keys, I think the keys might need a little explanation. I guess we talked about it, right? Like Basalt Monolith with the keys, busted. Soul Ring with the keys, pretty good. If you need to rinse your mana, turn colorless mana into colored mana, you can do that with the Manifold Key. But mainly it's to make your 8/8 Shorikai unblockable. That is not mainly why it's in the deck. That's a joke. No, but the Manifold Keys can do a lot of little things. They can help you cheat with your Basalt Monolith. I mean, it makes a lot of mana with a Basalt Monolith. If you've got a Basalt Monolith, tap it for 3, use one of those 3 mana to activate your key to untap the Basalt Monolith, then tap your Basalt Monolith again. That's 5 mana. And, well, Shorikai and Isochron Scepter. So I just think there's enough in the deck. There's enough things that there's enough reasons that justify the Manifold Keys, both of the keys, but I think the top thing that we want to use it for is Shorikai. We want to get to a point where we can generate enough mana. Remember, we're trying to play a long game. We're going real long with this deck. The longer, the better. If we get to turn 6, there's nobody can beat us, right? No way. We've drawn too many cards. We've made too many good decisions. We've traded too many 3 mana cards for our 3 opponents' entire board states. If we can get to that point, we've won. And once we get to that point, we've got tons of mana, and the things that we're doing are just inherently more powerful than the things our opponents are doing. Are there other notable cards? I think everything else looks just kind of standard. What's Dizzy Spell in the deck for, I hear you ask? Well, Dizzy Spell can find a Path to Exile, a Swords to Plowshare, but mostly what we're going to find, well, it can find a Manifold Key if we're set up for it. Probably most of the time what we're going to find is Skull Clamp. Welding Jar might look a little strange. We're using that for, this was one of the last ads for the deck. I just thought like having a protection piece for Shorikai would be good, that because our main win combos involve artifacts in addition to Shorikai, I think that's just enough reason to play Welding Jar. But then also as a benefit, it's another 0 mana artifact that allows us to combo with our Hullbreaker Horror. So Hullbreaker Horror is a good control piece. It's in the deck to be just a badass, right? And Polymorph is a fine card, even if we don't have a creature. We can, I don't know if I want to get into that. You can use it, suffice to say, you can use it to stack your entire deck, right? Let's not. I think we're about to wrap up here. I'm all out of voice, and we're rapidly approaching the 1 hour mark. Yeah, so I guess there are no notable inclusions. They all just make sense and look fantastic. No, really, I think everything else looks pretty much on the up and up, right? Touch the spirit realm. It can protect our things. It can flicker somebody's hate bear and get it out of our way so we can try to win the game. And if it fails, the thing will come back. We can flicker a grasp of fate to choose new targets. We can flicker the mirror maid to reset the mirror maid into whatever we want it to be. The out of time counters can be running thin. We can flicker the out of time with the touch. And touch can't be countered. It's a channel ability. Or we can literally just use it as an oblivion ring. You know, we can just use the actual enchantment part of the card if we're in a pinch. And blind obedience. This is another it's another way to win the game that is just a very good stax piece. I mean, blind obedience is a nasty stax. It's a damning stax piece, but it also has extort, which can, yes, pad our life total. That usually doesn't matter that much. But the main thing is when we're going through one of our infinite loops, whether it be Isochron Scepter or whether it be the bouncing the soul ring up and down with the Hullbreaker Horror, we're casting spells. And with extort, when we cast a spell, we can pay a mana to drain our opponents. And so that's just a way that we can murder them, again, without playing a dead card. This is just a good stacks piece. Artifacts, artifacts and creatures that your opponents play come into play tapped. That absolutely matters. Blast Zone, we're a 2-color deck. We're playing 34 lands. We're a control deck. I think this is just 19 cents. Fantastic. Mystic Sanctuary, if we have to blow our Time Warp early, we still have the out to drop our Mystic Sanctuary, put it on top of our deck, and draw it that way. Yeah, I think that's about the extent of it. I feel like there's something... Did I not explain how we're able to win the game if we don't have enough cards in our deck to win the game? Okay, so we make a whole bunch of 1/1s, but we don't have enough cards in our deck to make enough 1/1s to allow us to kill everybody in one swing. Well, the easy thing to do in that scenario, really, I guess, would just be to find another win con. You just made infinite mana and drew your deck. And we've already talked about some of those other win cons. But then the other thing you can do is just, you've got a big old stack now of cards in your graveyard. You've got infinite mana. Just put the mana into the Midnight Clock and Time Twister. And then go through again and make more creatures. Eventually you're going to find your Midnight Clock again. Do the Midnight Clock thing again. So on and so forth, right? Or just, you could use the Midnight Clock Time Twister loop type thing to just cast Time Warp every turn over and over. So there's lots and lots of ways to win the game without actually having to play a win con. But man, we are fast approaching that 1 hour mark, and I'm not having it. Till next time, homies. Good luck in the early game. Kill the Ral, kill the Slavala, kill the Magda, kill the Malcolm, fuck them all. Trade 1 for 1. Everybody's going to think he can't do this forever, but you're going to be drawing 2 cards on every turn effectively, right? Like you're drawing 2 and discarding 1, but you get all that card selection, all that extra card draw, and eventually maybe you find your, what's that thing, Mirror Maid, and you make another, oh no. Shorikai's a legend. That's not going to work. We should be done with this video. Why are we still rambling? Word to your mothers. Namaste. Peace be with you. May the force be with you and also with you. Yeah, namaste, nerds.